Amanda Hector here, founder and lead trainer of Fusion Training, the recruitment training specialist. Now today I wanted to record a video blog as opposed to a written blog. And what I want to start with is asking you a question. What type of recruiter are you today, right now? Because believe it or not, the type of recruiter you are has a direct impact on your results. Why? Because it affects your sales psychology in everything that you do. Now, I've been training recruiters for the last 5 years, and I've been in the industry for 15 years, and during that time there have been economic slowdowns, changing government and immigration legislation, global skill shortages, and even a global financial crisis. All of these have affected the recruitment industry in one way or another. And generally, during these times when the going gets tough, you generally tend to see the successes or failures between the different types of recruiters. During the GFC, I observed 4 distinct types of recruiters in the internal learning and development role that I was working in the UK at the time. And I'm going to share those profiles with you today. First of all, the first profile is the hanger-oner. Now, the hanger-oner, probably a bit of a crude and not a psychological profile name, but really was what you saw. That people that just typically, there were a typical reduction in their sales activities. Calls that they made were probably best described as chats with existing clients. There was a very little value added or focus around any clear business objectives or clearly defined outcomes from their interactions with their clients. Now, hanger-oners during tough times don't generally tend to make budget. And if tough times are for an extended period of time, then this can have some real difficulties for them. And hence, the roller coaster begins. Perhaps months of inconsistent billing and a couple of months of good billing because existing clients may have had some jobs for them. And, their job satisfaction was pretty low as well. Next, we have the doomsayers. Now, the doomsayers totally believed the hype. They were consumed with negative self-talk. All hope was lost. There was no point in making calls because they expected the worst. They expected rejection and they expected to fail. So it's almost like they had a self-fulfilling prophecy that led them towards finding evidence to support the negative belief system. So the doomsayers failed, and typically it's because they didn't initiate enough of or the right kind of activities to succeed. Job satisfaction was at an all-time low, and ultimately, one way or another, they left the industry. Then there's the overcompensator, where we have an increased sales activity. So an increase in sales activity is the great approach to have during tough times. But this was really a scattergun approach. They really spoke to everybody and anybody that would talk to them. They targeted unqualified prospects and there were very poor outcomes. These were the types of conversion ratios where you start to look at your 1%. So your 100 points of call, your 10 leads, your 1 job. So 1% conversion ratio of activities, or even below that. They worked really long and hard, and their work-life balance was non-existent. Now, the overcompensators had the right motivation. They really just needed to be coached and refined in their processes so that they targeted more qualified prospects, reduced the level of activity that they made, but increased the quality of the interactions with people. And then finally, we have the strategists. So with the strategists, they remained focused and potentially found opportunities to diversify. If they were working in a buoyant market and that market tended to slow up, then there were other avenues perhaps that they could pursue that they would look at. But it really was thinking about increasing their sales activities but being focused on relationship and referral selling, as opposed to cold calling in its true sense of the word, which has the lowest conversion ratio of all sales activities. They almost accepted that tough times were cyclical in recruitment and embraced them and evolved with them. They continued to add value to their client portfolio. So even if clients weren't hiring, there were still some value adds in terms of their interaction and the depth of the rapport that they built with them during this period of time. Now, I went to a business seminar a few weeks ago, and the speaker there, a gentleman called Dale Beaumont, we're talking to perhaps 400 or 500 business owners in the room, talking about having strategies, having systems, having processes, and evolving with your market. He had an expression which was, you're either green and growing or you're ripe and rotting. Now, a strategist really is green and growing in any market conditions. The bottom line is tough market exists. Tough markets have always existed. Clients don't stop hiring completely. They just hire in different ways and in different frequencies and in different volumes. When you compare the 4 types of profiles I've just shared with you, those consultants all worked in the same business. In the business that I worked in, we had close to 700 consultants. So we had a lot of data to work with. They all worked in the same company, had the same database, had the same resources, similar experience levels, and similar successes in a buoyant market. So some of them succeeded in a tough market and some of them failed. And the key differentiation between them was mindset and resilience. Because of all of the issues that we're faced with every day, the biggest issue that you can have, which can have a fatal consequence on your sales results, is when your mindset starts to actually mirror the mindset of other negative or doomsayers such as clients. So if we have a doomsaying client, if a recruiter's mindset matches what the client's sharing with them, then that can have a significant effect on the sales psychology and unconsciously will stop somebody from picking up the phone and making contact with people. So there's an iceberg analogy which is really great to demonstrate the difference between skill set and mindset when it comes to sales-based jobs. And let's not forget, recruitment is a sales-based job. So the iceberg analogy, when you look at the skill set, it generally accounts for 20% of the job. It sits above the surface. It's the smallest volume of whole, but it's critical for balance of whole. And then we have mindset, which sits below the surface, and this accounts for 80% of the success of salespeople. So it's below the surface, it's the largest volume of whole, but it's also still critical for balance. Now the key with mindset is it's under the surface, it's hard to see. So we have to have a self-monitoring process. When it comes to mindset, that is a choice, that is a conscious choice that you can choose to make every day. So ask yourself every day, what mindset do you choose? What game do you want to play? Ask yourself that question several times. Before you go to work, what game do you choose? Check in with yourself halfway through the day. What game are you playing? And at the end of the day, assess what game you've been playing. Self-awareness is incredibly powerful. And you can, in my experience from sales training, you can teach people sales techniques and sales skills, but it is all futile unless the mindset and the game that you choose to play is on point and it's for success, not for failure. So when times get tough, ask yourself this question each day. Check in with yourself. What game are you choosing to play? Now, in my next blog, I'm going to share with you the critical numbers that will ultimately lead to your success or your insanity. which road do you choose? There are two choices. You can choose very high activity, low conversion ratio sales activities, or you can choose a higher conversion ratio, which will need less activities, which will allow you more time to be strategic in your day-to-day work. I hope you enjoyed today's video blog, and I'd love to hear any comments or questions that you have. Until next time.